What do you do when the person you trust most in the world becomes a stranger in your own home? I saw it for the first time on a Tuesday, the kind of boring, forgettable day that ends up branding itself onto your soul. My wife, Sarah, was sitting on the edge of our bed, her back to me. The only light in the room was the cold blue glow of her phone screen, and on her face was a smile. It wasn't just any smile. It was the one I hadn't seen in years, the one that used to be reserved only for me, a private, intimate curve of her lips that spoke of secrets and shared joy. But this time, the secret wasn't mine. The screen went dark, but the ghost of that smile haunted the dim room, and I knew with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that my life was about to break into a million pieces. If you genuinely enjoy our stories, please subscribe to the channel. Tell us where you're from and what time it is right now. It's always fascinating to know how far our story flows. It started subtly, as these things always do. Late nights at the office that stretched longer than usual. Business trips that popped up with suspicious frequency. When I'd ask, her answers were clipped, wrapped in the armor of corporate jargon I couldn't penetrate. Project deadlines, she'd say, her eyes not quite meeting mine. Client emergencies. She made me feel small for even asking, as if my concern was an accusation, a sign of my own insecurity. The woman I married, the one who'd trace the lines on my palm and tell me our futures were intertwined, was now a master of deflection. She'd angle her phone away when I walked into the room, a quick, reflexive gesture that screamed guilt louder than any confession. One night I found a receipt from a hotel bar on the north side of Chicago, the direct tucked into her coat pocket. She'd told me she was working late at her office in the Loop. The distance between those 2 points was more than just miles. It was a chasm that had opened up in our marriage. The villains, my wife and her lover, moved with an infuriating sense of invincibility. They thought they were clever, untouchable. I'd hear her on the phone, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, laced with a sweetness that had long since soured for me. She'd laugh, a sound that once felt like home but now echoed with betrayal. They met in plain sight, at dimly lit restaurants on Rush Street, believing the city's anonymity was their shield. She grew colder, more manipulative. Every question I asked was twisted into an attack on her character. "Why are you so controlling?" she'd snap, her eyes flashing with manufactured indignation. "Don't you trust me?" The irony was a blade twisting in my gut. She was gaslighting me into believing I was the one who was crazy, that the smoke filling our home wasn't from a fire, but from a fault in my own mind. The breaking point came on a rainy Thursday night. I had come home early, hoping to surprise her, to maybe salvage something, anything, from the wreckage. I found her in the kitchen, on the phone, her back to me again. "I love you too," she whispered, and the 3 words shattered what was left of my heart. She hung up, turned, and saw me. The color drained from her face, but there was no remorse in her eyes, only annoyance. It was in that moment I broke, not with a shout, but with a terrifying silence. The love I had for her died, and in its place, something cold and methodical began to grow. I went upstairs, locked myself in the bathroom, and stared at the hollowed-out man in the mirror. The tears finally came, hot and silent. But as they dried, a new resolve hardened within me. She had underestimated me. They both had. They thought I was just a loyal, heartbroken husband. They were about to find out how wrong they were. My grief turned to strategy. It became a ghost in my own life, meticulously gathering proof. I hired a private investigator, a grizzled ex-cop who knew the city's secrets. He delivered a manila envelope filled with photographs of Sarah and him, a smug-looking finance bro named Mark, leaving a boutique hotel in the Gold Coast, his arm draped possessively around her. There were bank statements I secretly copied, showing lavish dinners and weekend getaways I wasn't part of. I installed a keylogger on the home computer and read their emails, a stream of digital poison detailing their contempt for me, their plans for a future built on the ruins of mine. Each piece of evidence was a stone I laid on the path to her destruction. I set my traps with the patience of a predator. I contacted a shark of a divorce attorney, a woman known for leaving her opponents with nothing but the clothes on their backs. We structured the divorce filing to hit at the moment of maximum impact, leveraging the infidelity clauses in our prenuptial agreement that Sarah had arrogantly dismissed years ago. The public exposure was a masterpiece of social demolition. Sarah's company was hosting its annual charity gala, a high-profile event for Chicago's elite. She was set to receive an award for integrity and leadership. The irony was sickening. As she walked onto the stage, beaming under the spotlights, my plan went into motion. A technical glitch occurred. Instead of a slideshow of her corporate achievements, the massive screens behind her lit up with the PI's photos. There she was, kissing Mark outside the Drake. There they were, laughing at a cafe, her hand in his. The images cycled one after another, a silent, brutal narrative of her betrayal. A collective gasp sucked the air out of the ballroom. The silence that followed was deafening. I watched from the back of the room as her smile faltered, then crumbled. Her face, a mask of horror and disbelief, was illuminated for everyone to see. She was ruined, utterly and completely, in front of her colleagues, her bosses, her entire world. The aftermath was quiet. She was fired, of course. Mark, whose own wife saw the evidence online, was facing his own public and private implosion. Sarah tried to fight the divorce, but the mountain of evidence was insurmountable. The court enforced the prenup. She lost the house, her savings, her reputation. She was left with nothing. I never saw her again after the final court date. Sometimes late at night, I sit in the quiet of my now empty house. The same house where I first saw her smile at a phone screen, and I think about the woman I once loved. The revenge wasn't a victory. It was just an ending. The silence in this house is the heaviest thing I've ever known. The end.